Go back in. No, what have I done again? Share again. That should still be there. Okay. Yeah, sorry, just to reconvene and just understanding, as farmers do, just, yeah, each layer is a different ball game. Ed describing the pH and the variance. There is a variance across the landscape, but also into it. And so being aware of that, there is enough information within Upper North to understand in the different soil types what we need to be thinking, but certainly from phosphorus and nitrogen efficiency and where the sulfur sits in the different layers of the soil, different horizons. We need to be aware of that for planning now, for strategically making the most of this next season with high fertiliser costs, prices. Going back to that boron, this was a soil pit we dug up and then obviously filled back in. Well, not me, I didn't, but certainly Matt Nottle did. And just the sodium boron we brought up, and then that's a couple of years later, so still not producing much. So my comments on boron are very important at depth, just to understand that. And vertical rate, so into the soils, is important as variable rate, understanding that. That's in a pit, more recent one we've done in the Upper North, and that's a change in pH in a relatively small area in the soil. So just understanding that stratification and things and where the nutrients sit is critical, and down to depth. Purple obviously is a higher pH, more calcareous material, and the pH as it gets to green near the surface is more acidic. So being aware of that, and that's only 45 centimetres into the soil. Great charts. This one I think comes out of Stoller, originally out of a university in the US, but it is just the hormone cycles in a plant and when the nutrients are needed at what time of the season. So where the micronutrients need to go in. And you'll just see under vegetative growth there, that copper earlier, you'll see copper as a key nutrient hormone cofactor or firing pin detonator to set up these systems to give you greater efficiency out of what you've spent your money on, the N, the P and the S. I know largely we don't need potassium in our soils, so it's not that we're not thinking about it, but it's available from a soil pool rather than having to spend money on, unlike WA. Ed's put together this chart from a cereal perspective, from germination right through to maturity and senescence or ripening there, just on where the nutrients fit in. And in this chart, he's included sulfur critically when that's necessary and needed. And a lot of these things aren't necessarily needed to be added in this season, but just being aware what their volumes are, their availability, and where it sits in the landscape. Just finally, yeah, micronutrients, key points. We all talk about abiotic and biotic stress in plant. It's our most critical, I suppose, yield and quality determining factor in the Upper North. It's just that late season, the heat stress and the cold stress, which can then relate to biotic stress from disease and various other deficiencies, inefficiencies and things like that. So we just have to be aware of where they fit in and continue to understand. I know they're a cheaper part of this whole package, but they are necessary to give you greater efficiency out of what you're spending most of your money on in relation to N and P. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. But also there's a couple of good documents and things that I think I'll give to Morgan to circulate just in relation to this. One really good one from Adelaide University on sulfur and things. They're just very easy to read. Things just to keep up to speed when making these fertiliser decisions, not necessarily for planting, maybe, and a lot of that's been organised by farmers already, and they may drop rates and things, but subsequent to planting, just what our fertiliser use is, because I don't know necessarily if the price is going to come down substantially by the time we get to the end of next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Was there any questions at all? No questions? All right, David, do you want to start sharing your screen? Let's do a little introduction on yourself as well.
That would be me.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Evans. I'm the Grower Engagement Officer for South Australia for Grain Growers, National Grower Policy and Advocacy Group. I don't have a presentation as such, Morgan, but I just wanted to refer you to a few things and a bit of work that we've been doing around this. Look, I guess it goes without saying that the last couple of months have been pretty stressful for a lot of farmers, on top of obviously harvest delays and rain and impacts on quality and all that sort of thing. We've also been dealing with the spectre of massive increases in input costs for 2022 and also supply issues. And on top of that, as Michael alluded to earlier, you know, we're talking about probably a really much earlier start to summer spraying in order to try and conserve as much of that sort of November rainfall as possible. So I guess there's a lot going on in most growers' heads, and certainly a lot of multi-decision making stuff having to happen. Back in September, I guess, when this all sort of, particularly fertiliser prices and everything took a large leap, we actually commissioned a bit of a questionnaire for the key input suppliers in Australia. If I can refer to our website, it's all the results and everything on there, so I won't bore you with all of that. But and also bear in mind this was done on the 27th of September, so things have moved on a little bit since then. But we spoke to, in no particular order, GrainCorp, Viterra, Nutrien, Nufarm, FMC, Delta Agribusiness, Bayer, Incitec, Pivot, John Deere, and Case Australia, and basically asked them three things. Is your organisation experiencing supply and demand challenges due to COVID? Universally, the response was yes. And then, what is your organisation doing in response to these challenges to ensure inputs are available to meet demand? Fair range of responses, and I guess that's probably changed a bit since the 27th of September, but you know, worth a bit of a read. And then finally, we asked them all, what is your message to growers? And you know, universally, all those suppliers are saying, look, you know, you need to be prepared. You need to understand there's a fair bit of pressure on the supply chain for a host of reasons, including COVID. But you know, be proactive and don't be sort of waiting until March thinking you're just going to roll in one day and order your fertiliser. And I'm sure no one's actually thinking about doing that. Further on from that, one of the issues, I guess, potentially a year or so ago, we put together a guide for growers for managing grain contracts. And we thought to ourselves, well, maybe we might want to have a look at this in respect to superphosphate contracts, particularly because I guess the big risk is if you've contracted your fertiliser for, you know, whatever delivery at whatever price and whatever tonnes you think you need, and then all of a sudden your supplier says, well, bad luck, I can't supply it, or you can have 20% of your allocation or whatever. So what are your actual rights? What can you do? You know, how does a contract like that get washed out? All that stuff. And so we're thinking about putting together a guide for growers along those lines. And so I'd be interested in any feedback, particularly from the growers who are on this morning, as to what would be the sorts of things you'd like to know in a contracts guide, particularly with relevance to fertiliser. Okay, everyone obviously thinking deeply about that. That's fine. We'll probably go ahead and do that anyway. So keep your eye on our website. I guess the other thing, sadly, I mean, as an organisation, Grain Growers, we don't have a silver bullet to suddenly, you know, make fertiliser more available at half the price that it is today, and that's just reality. But we certainly are busy keeping, well, everyone from the Federal Ag Minister down informed about A, what's happening, B, what the likely implications are, and we'll obviously continue to represent growers and to do that. I don't have a hell of a lot more for you, other than, yeah, look, if you've got any questions, again, a lot of that stuff is on our website. Certainly the the supplier surveys on there, and when we actually come up and put together an farm inputs contract guide, we'll circulate that widely, and that will also be available via our website as well. But Morgan, thanks for the opportunity. A lot of really good discussion from our perspective out of this, just to get it from the horse's mouth. So yeah, really good. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us all today. Did anyone have any questions for Ed, Dave, or Michael before we move on? Don't be shy. No, we're all good. All right, Jana, did you want to start and share your screen? And did you want to introduce yourself, or did you want me to do it?